building a game in Flutter from scratch using only canvas. If you can hear the clock in the background, I'm right on time. I promise to be back around the top of the hour, so perfectly. Um, so for whoever didn't follow, so this is basically going to pull this little Twitter thing in here. Oops. Wow, that didn't work at all. Where did my window go? All right, here. That's the window. So basically, this is what we're trying to build. A little game in 2D that has like a little UFO. You can shoot at things. The thing is that when I first built it, I used the Flame game engine. I will not explain all these in detail. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but basically use this game engine, and for various reasons, I wanted to rebuild it from scratch. So that's what we are doing now. What we did so far, we built the time map, and I made a small correction here for everyone who was watching up to here. I removed this if statement that printed out certain things when the index was not like we expected, and I put an insertion here, so we catch that right away in the future. Shouldn't happen though anymore, so now I can actually run it, and it builds a time map. Right. Again, if you missed that first part, make sure to watch the video before. All right, now what do we want to next? Well, we want to basically now actually see things on cameras, right? So what we'll do is we'll actually first of all try to run this on a Mac desktop, and we'll open our main file. Okay, so as you can see here, we have run app null. That will obviously most likely will fail, but we can just try it anyways. So we'll run that. Hold on. So I want to actually now run the main and see what happens there, and it basically should bomb. So right now it's building us the Mac application. And again, as I mentioned before, I kind of like the idea of being able to just run this in like a small window instead of having to run a full-blown phone emulator. But obviously the game also works on the phone. So the game that I already built, I can just show it in a second. So here we go. I don't know if anyone can see that, but that's the game. I'm trying to hold this to the camera. You can go forward. You can shoot. That's pretty much the game. I don't know how well you could see that, but rest assured it works on Android at this point. But again, we're trying to rebuild this from scratch, so we don't want to use that. So here you can see child couldn't be null, so we failed. But what we'll do is actually we'll put this over here, and we'll just keep this open. And we'll make our code window small enough to see this. All right. And now we're going to create a stateless widget. So we're just going to call this my app. So why do we want it to be a stateless widget? Because right now, yeah, it can be stateless because we only render one time, right? We only want to, we don't want to like update anything yet. We're just basically going to pull the time map, and then we're happy, right? So now if I do this, run it again, now what do we see? Nothing. Well, because there's nothing here. We just have an empty container. But at least it doesn't bomb anymore. And you can see how quickly I was able to refresh. I can just do that. So if I, for instance, wanted to put a child in here, or let's just say the background, which let's just set the color, something, colors, dot, let's say we make it red. I want to show it, so I save it, right? So now I save it, boom, red, immediately. That's kind of the fun with Flutter, that within like milliseconds, you see if something that you did worked or not. Okay. But what we do want is we want a container, but instead of it just being red, we want it to have a child, and we make it a custom paint. And the custom paint is a somewhat low-level feature of Flutter. You can just jump here, and basically it allows us to paint directly to canvas. And basically, it is used by a lot of things inside Flutter. Basically, a lot of UI pieces, like the button or whichever, is basically using that annotate. You can see that. So I just looked for usages, and you can see that a lot of things are using this custom paint. And so we are basically at the very low level, but that's fine because we do want to paint directly canvas. Why do we have a container? Well, because we want to kind of show where our canvas starts and where it ends. So we just make this a teal accent. Okay. All right. It needs to be color. All right. So now we have teal, and we don't see anything regarding the custom paint yet because it's not doing anything. Then it's going to ask us for the size. So we're going to try to be as big as we can. So we're going to say double.infinity, double.infinity. All right, and then we'll create a painter. So the painter is a custom painter. So it's basically a thing that has the main thing that we're interested in has a build method. Build method, or the paint method actually, paint method, and that will give us a canvas and the size of the canvas. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to do a canvas painter, call it, and we just instantiate it with nothing for now, right? In a second we'll have to do something. We have to pass it something, but we'll do that there. So let's create that, and then it basically extends custom painter. Okay, so now we have that. Now it asks us to implement the overrides. So the main important thing is paint. Here we just basically return true for now, always. We're not worried about performance or anything like that. So that's it. So now what we could already do, we can create us some paint. We're going to, for now, we're just going to paint us some grid, just for fun, just to see something. Oh, actually not necessarily. So let's just paint something. So let's just do a circle, just to show that this works. Circle paint. Okay. And the circle paint, we're going to initialize that. So that's the fun part. So basically what we're going to do is when we have a constructor, when we get created, canvas painter, we are going to initialize our circle paint, and we say it's a paint with color. Let's make it really obvious, make it color red. And then it's going to have a style we want it to fill, right? And obviously you can look all this up somewhere. Pretty trivially though here what we're doing, right? We're just creating a paint because we need to basically, when we're painting something, like we say we want a shape, right? It needs to know what to do with that shape. Do you want to just render a border? Do you want to fill it? What's the color? And so on. So now what we can do, we can say, okay, let's do a radius of, let's say 10, right? And then let's say we want to paint this at 10 at the 1010, right? And so what we can do, we can say canvas dot draw a circle. We have to create an offset, and we makes this exactly like the radius for now. So it will be 1010. And then we pass it a radius, and we have to pass it a paint. And so now you can already see it's complaining because the offset needs a double. So you can see like it's a double. And so the offset comes from geometry, which is included with Dart. So basically all we had to do here is we didn't even have to do anything. So let's just say we didn't have the whole material thing imported. It would come from the Dart UI, right? Once we have material in, it's already included, so we don't really need to import Dart UI specifically at this point. So, and then the paint, obviously we have to say this is our circle paint. Okay, now we would think now that we would actually draw something. So let's see. So we refresh and nothing happened. Okay, let's think about why not. Oh yeah, that is. You know why I didn't see it? It is because I was expecting it down here, right? Well, the thing is that we were thinking 0, 0, we want it to be here, right? Well, drew it up there. So why? Well, because the canvas has 0, 0 up on the left corner. But we have some sort of success. So what we need to do is we need to actually make the canvas point to the lower left, right? So basically what we're going to say is lower left canvas, and we pass the canvas. And what we do every time before we draw anything, we'll just push it to the left. So basically what we do. So every time we do something with the canvas, it's kind of tricky. So let's just say, actually let's make this actually a rectangle. But we'll do that in a second. But basically if I was to draw, let's say I wanted to rotate the circle. Well, you couldn't see how it's rotating, but if I wanted to rotate it to the left, you can't just say, I don't know, draw the circle and rotate it. What actually you have to do is you have to move the canvas origin temporarily to that point, to the middle there, and then you would do the rotation. Then you would draw, and now since it's rotated, it will draw it rotated, and then you restore the canvas back to where it was before. So we're going to see that in a second. So basically here, what we do though, we don't want to save the canvas like it is before, because we want to apply this change from basically for all the things that we draw afterwards. So basically what we're going to do, we're going to canvas translate, and so we don't. So what we're trying to do, we're going to try to move the canvas to here, right? And then we scale the canvas upside down. So basically what we do is we move it here, and the height is basically gonna give that, you need the height, right? And then we're going to say canvas.scale, and we keep the x-axis as is, and we scale the y-axis to make it upside down. And so what we'll do then is, before we draw anything, we'll call that method lower left canvas, and we're going to give it the canvas and the size.height. Okay, now let's see. Okay, now our circle went down here, right? Now let's see what happens if I wouldn't have that translate here, if that still would work. And that doesn't work at all, because now basically weird things happened. I think the camera somehow got scaled. Thinking from here, I don't know where the circle is. It's probably like all the way up here now. But these are things like this kind of code you learn once, and then you can just use it everywhere. So now we got the circle on the lower left corner where we want it, right? Okay, so we got the canvas translation, and now what we need is we need to actually draw our tile map, right? So so what we'll do when we build the app, before we build the app, we actually just get our tile map. So for that, we need to do a little thing here. So we get the tile map, but we don't have levels yet, right? So what we can do, we can take another level, or we could just take that level here, right, as a start. So we take a level, and we just make a package, test levels, right? Test levels. And so we create a new level, like simple, whatever, dot file, simple level. And so all that does is it exports these kind of things. Okay, so and then put a little level start here, levels. Okay, and then basically it's going to be a class. And so basically what we'll do is, make sure you look at this real quick because I already did this before. So I can, and by the way, if I move too far away from the microphone, someone please remind me in the chat if you can't hear very well what I'm saying. So in the previous thing I had levels, yeah, was level, and see how I did that there. And you can see that I'm cheating, I know. Yeah, but basically I just put that there. Take simple, get simple level, and so we get the simple level, right? And the simple level, well, that doesn't work. So let's do it simple to force. Okay, so now I can import that. Okay, fine. So you have the simple level, and now obviously what we need to do first is we need to create the tile map for this. So final tile map equals tile map dot. So we need to import tile map. Come on, dot build, and we say levels dot simple. All right, import that. All right, nice. So we got our tile map. So when we build our app, we're gonna pass that tile map. Let's see if our IDE can figure this one out. It can figure that one out. All right. So what we'll have to do is create a constructor tile map. Well, actually, we have to create a final tile map, and then we'll. All right. Okay. So now we got our tile map. And so now what we actually need to do, and now I'm actually going to refer also to the code that I already have here of the actual game that we implemented before. So obviously there, what we did, we created a game. But for now, we are trying to do the simplest possible thing, right? So this canvas painter will obviously be part of our game. And it will take into account the tile map, but it will also take into account the state. So for now, what we actually have to do is we don't want to just paint the tile map, because the tile map will change, right? What we actually want to do, we want to create some sort of a state which you can basically draw from. So yeah, so that's where we get into things where actually we're gonna have to write some more code before we can see anything, unless we really want to not do this nicely. But I think, yeah, I think it's worth it to go ahead and start to see how we can convert this tile map into models, right? Because right now this, like, we need a model because we build a tile map and the player is in a certain position. But first of all, the player will move, and also there'll be other things in our game, right? So what we'll do is we create a models folder. All right, and there we create a game model. It's called game model. So in the game model, and for now, all we're gonna do is we're gonna render a player. So we're only worried about the player for now. Okay, so we got the game model, and so the game model itself will have a player model. So we create that as well, player model. And so we have a player model. And the player model, when we create it, we'll give it, we basically have to give it, like, where is it? Like, so, and again, I'm looking over here to to make sure we don't make too many mistakes here. But the player mode has something tile position. So what's the tile position? We don't have that yet, right? So a tile position, and that's where we have to explain some things. But I'm going to actually, again, steal that a little bit here. So what we'll do is we create a thing that is called engine. So these are going to be all these things that are considered kind of not part of the actual game. Those are actually part of just supporting what we need to do. So let's do a tile position. Okay. All right, and now we need to explain some things. Again, Handmade Hero guy did a very good job at that, but I will try to do my best to explain this as well. So what we'll do is there's this cool. So here's the Handmade Hero again. Watch that. He explains it really nice. So what we'll do, we go here to this tool. All right. And so what I'm going to just use this to explain a little bit about the whole tile position and the wall position. So basically, if you look at these, this could be like our tiles, right? So we're going to put like walls and so on. Like, I mean, if you look at here, right? We have every tile like that is an actual game tile as well. But you can see that the player is actually not moving tile by tile. That would look really stupid. But as you can see, everything else is kind of based on tiles. So that medicine pack is in a tile. The diamond is in a certain tile, and so on. So we're using tiles to make certain things easier, but at the same time we want like the shots also move fluent. So there's a mixture of things going on. So first of all, in order to determine the position of a player or anything, we're going to use can I draw on this somehow? I haven't really used this too much yet. I guess I can't really draw on this. So we'll have to, okay. So this one, right, is a tile. So I just want a circle. Okay. So let's just say the player is here, okay? I just want a circle. Just a simple ellipse will fine too. Okay. Okay, so let's say the player is here, right? So then how do we know where he is? Well, we say it's in tile, 1, 1. So this would be tile 0, right? 0, 0. And then this is tile 1, 1. But then the player is not exactly in the center of the tile. The player is a little bit to the left and up. So we encode that too, right? And then since we know the width and height of our tile, which is basically the same thing, the tile size, then we can basically calculate that to canvas coordinates, or you could call it a world position. So you can say, okay, well, if the player is in this tile, so we take the tile width, right, twice, that's the x, and then we take the tile width column, so that we get the y, but then we know it's actually we're going from the center, so we subtract half of each, and then we look at where relative to that is the player, and so we can then calculate the entire coordinate that we want to look at. So that's basically what's encoded in this tile position. So we got the column, which is basically the x of the tile, and then we got the row, which is the y of the tile. And then we have doubles here, which is saying relative to the center of the tile, where is the player actually, right? So relative to the center here. Oops. Okay, so now disappeared, all of them. I'm obviously not really good at using any of these tools. Okay, and then, so here's the center, right? And I don't want, okay, fine, then you have it. I don't want the circle to be there. Okay. Okay, it just, here we go, we have a pen. Okay, much better. So here we have the player, and then here is the center, right? Then we can calculate in relation to the center where the player is. And I guess I can, oh, that's nice. So, okay, now we got something. And I guess you can't just undo. Okay. All right. So, so that's what the tile position is. And then we have already here a convenience method in here that says where I can compare tile positions, like is it in the same tile? And we'll do that for hit testing, right? Like we don't even, but it will explain that when that happens, right? Okay, so now we got that. So the other thing we need though is we need the world position. And again, I'm just going to copy that because that would be too tedious to type out. And they also relate. So you get the world position. Okay, so world position. So here you already starting to see things, right? Game props, tile size. We need still a tile size, but here we have the tile position. So the world position basically calculates the tile size. So basically what we want to do is, so this thing is referring to game props, right? It's part of the engine, which kind of sucks actually. It's almost like you want to pass in, but then you have to always pass it in. It's not 100% clean. So let's just remove the 2 point. We don't need that for now. The offset is part of Dart. Let's just think about that for a second. But basically, we can explain here, right? So we get the tile position, right? So now, in order to figure out what our where we actually are, we take t times the column. So it means like the tile width, right? Right, the tile width. We take the times column. So 1, 2. We end up here, right? Now we're here. So then, oh, actually, hold on. This is actually not correct. So yeah, the tile position is already centered. Okay, so the tile position, when we say well, actually, this like is totally agnostic to whether the tile position is centered or not. But basically, we're saying like if we have a tile width, and let's just say our tile origin would be here, right? Here, we take that twice. So if we're in the first tile, so this is 0's tile, right? And with the first tile on the x, we end up here. And then since we're also on the first tile from y, we end up here. And then we take a relative x and y of this, right? And then we'll talk later about how this gets actually centered. And the thing is, we're skipping a bunch of steps here. And again, the Handmade Hero guy is actually explaining this in all this detail. I just did not want to go through all these details because he already does it so well. So make sure you watch that as well, especially the ones related to tiling. So now we're going to have to think is, are we going to, what are we going to do with the tile size? So this is kind of the engine, right? Well, we could argue that these properties are part of our game engine. We're not writing a general engine, right? So what we could do, we could say actually on our word position, define a tile size there. Right, and then it's is null, or we're just not going to define that. And so basically, when you ask for this, we're going to first assert that the tile size, and this is kind of weird, but we're initializing on our static. So the thing is that this will not change. This will be a constant. Right, because we want to keep the static. Yeah, we want to keep this method static. So if the tile size can't be 0, init tile size first. All right, and we're gonna put this as well here. And so then now we assign this. And so basically what we're going to do then is in our main dart for now, we're just going to do right here. Right, we're going to do world position. But the thing is, what we're going to do is we're going to put some game props anyways to have the separate game props. Okay, and so we have a class game props that defines the top position here. And let's just say it's 40 for now. Okay. And so this is a compile time constant, so we can mark it. And then I guess we don't need double. Not happy about that. Why is it not happy? Oh, we need static. Okay, so now it's a compile time constant, right? So it can be const. So then basically what we say with position dot tile size equals game props dot tile size. Okay, and then I have to figure out why it's not happy about that. Oh, because we named it wrong. Tile size. Okay, so now it should be happy. Okay, so now basically here we have the tile size. Okay, so now we basically can compute the world position from tile position. So we got that kind of out of the way. And again, I didn't do a very good job explaining all this. But again, watch the Handmade Hero, and he does a much better job as explains this. Okay. So next, now when we create the model, right? We create the model we created with the tile position. Okay. And in order to make this nicer, I think I did this over here too. I'm just looking this up right now. In order to make this nicer, we name all these. So basically, that you don't confuse what you're actually doing. So let's import that. So we have name properties, right? But the important thing is, and to not miss out, is to make them required. Because otherwise the compiler doesn't tell you that you're missing something. So the other thing, so that's pretty much it for now. There will be other things in there, like the angle, like where is the player pointing at, if he's moving, obviously, like what's the position, and so on. But right now it's not moving. Sorry, if it's moving, what's the velocity, right? But right now the player is not moving. We're not worried about that at all. And we just have the player model like that, right? So now if we go back to the game model, all we have to do here is when we create a game model, we need to include a player model. And you can see that for now I'm making the player model a final. And there's certain reasons why this makes sense, where maybe you want to make the game model immutable. But I think we will not have the game model immutable. Actually, what we'll actually do is we'll do all the updates in the game loop, and then we'll actually save the game model. We need to send it to the server also, but we'll get to all these steps much later. So for now, I'm making it final. So we create a little constructor where we get the player model. Okay. Okay, so now, cool. So now we got the game model. And now we go back to our main file here, and we say that so we got the tile map, so we can create a player model. But how do we create the player model, right? So actually, what we do is we're going to go. So we got the levels over here, right? So we need to be able to build the model. And so actually, let's put that as part of the models, right? New dot file. We say we need to build the model, right? So that's the first time. Actually, we probably want to create it. It's because it's only on the first time we create it, right? And so basically what we do is we need to pass a time map, and we spit out a game model, right? And that's basically at the very beginning when you start the game. To have a start point, you create that game model. Okay. Right, and then the game model. All right. Now, so what we need to do is we first, so we have to go through all the time map. And for now, we only find the player. Okay, so that's what we're only going to worry about now. So we have the rows, and we figure out what the columns are. And I'm just assigning them here to access them quicker with less code. And then basically what we are going to say is the player is at this point null. Right, we don't have it yet. And at the very end, what we return is a game model with the player model being the player. And actually, let me go ahead here and like, let's not name it player model. Let's just name it player. You know it's a model. Okay. So now, how do we find out what the player is? So, well, we go through all the. Actually, I'm going to paste that boilerplate because it's not fun to type in here. But basically, what we're going to iterate through all the rows and all the columns. Okay. We can change if we want to do columns first or rows first. Doesn't really matter. I'm thinking of going X first and then Y, but obviously you could do it the other way as well. And actually, let's just do that. Maybe a little more intuitive. So, all right. So now what we do is we go through all these. So we get the tile at the. Where's my tile map? It's there. So why doesn't have any tiles? Oh, because I'm not typing tiles. Okay, and so we're going to basically getting the row, and again we're indexing the same way, right? Right, we're basically indexing the same way that we did when we assigned it before, right? So again, we're having a flat representation of a 2D matrix, right? So keep that in mind. So now what we're going to do, we're just going to say that. If the tile is the player, right? Okay, so then we do something. Then we're saying, well, the player is our player model, and the tile position, which we need to give the tile position, is tile position. All right, and we know now that we are in column, row, and okay, so we know the column and row. To put that, but it also wants to know relative, right? See it here? So what's the starting at relative? Well, we could just say 0, 0, right? And that would be happy, but then our player would basically start out. Let's just say it's in this tile here, right? So then the player would be here, right? Like right here. But we want the player to be here, right? So what we want to do is actually we want to define what it means to be in the center relative to the tile. And so the center will basically have to do with what? With obviously with the tile size, right? So just verifying here. So basically, right? So basically what we actually want to do when we build this, we can actually pass in the tile size here. So double tile size, right? And so then the center is basically the tile size divided by 2, right? So if you think about that, if we basically have, this is our tile, right? That's the tile size, but we want to be here, right? In the middle, so it's half of that size. And the same goes for obviously for y. And since our tiles are squares, we're like fine with we don't have to have like x and y times us. That's basically that, right? So we just have one. And so instead of that, we now give it center. And both of them are the same, right? Because again, tile size is the same. For x and y. Okay, the width and the height are the same, is what I'm trying to say the whole time. All right, so now we got our player model. So now we return the game model with player. So now actually what we should be able to do is we want to be able to print things. So again, this is like very tedious to implement the toString function. You can auto generate it, but it's not that pretty. So I'm actually going to steal it a little bit. So I'm going to first make one for the player. So we got the player model. So here we're just going to implement that. And obviously we don't have these yet. And then the top position will also have, I think it already has a toString. There you go, right? And the world position also has one, I think. Well, it doesn't have one, but may not actually need it. So then for the game model, we do the same thing. And the game model also will basically like just render all the submodels. So for now, the game model, if we do a toString here, we want to render the player model, so we say the player is this. And to make it look a little nicer, I usually like it to be multi-line. All right, so let's do this. All right, okay, that should be fine. And then when we do the game, what we want to actually do is we want to say our game model is the new game model, right? No, actually, no, it's not. We created, right? We just wrote the create model or whatever. What do we call it? Create model. Okay. And so we need to give it the tile map. And what else did it need? Tile size. So we give it the same thing here. Give it the tile size. Okay. And then obviously, instead of passing the tile map, we give it the game model. Okay. And so so here we have a game model. Right. Okay. And game model. All right. And so now what we want to actually do, we want to draw this circle. We want to draw this circle somewhere where the player actually is. So let's see. The radius we can leave as 10, but the offset is basically the widget dot. Okay, how do we get this? So I guess we need to pass our model onto here. I think there's no way around that. So, and we're gonna pull all this apart later, obviously, right? There will be a game, there will be a game loop. For now, all we're trying to do is to just render something just with the canvas. All right, game model. And again, I'm going to take a short break at the top of the hour just to keep these videos to like a minimum, like an hour each, roughly. So, so we got the game model, and so then we can do is the center. Let's just say the player top position is if you have our game model dot player dot top position. Okay, and then basically the center where we actually want to draw is player player top position. Why is this complaining? Why is this not heavy? Player. Okay, it's failing me. Well, everyone, yeah. Okay, what I actually want to do is this, and then dot, right? And so what we want to do, world position dot from type position Okay, and player position, player tile position. Okay, so now we got the center, and then so the center though, if you look at this closely, is a world position still, and so then we need to get the offset for that because that's what the canvas wants. So center dot to offset. Okay. Okay, so now, so we have nothing because we have an error. Get a player was called on null, which seems like we have create the model here. Well, what we can do is we can print it. But print and see what we have here. Okay, see. So we got the game model, we got the player with the top position, which is a tile 8, row 2, and then we have the relative position of the player. So here we can see that the player is centered, right? Already. Do you see that? So you see the player, if you look at our string, actually what we do is we're going to print the time map as well, so that we can see that better. Alright, let's do it again. So basically now we can, okay. Oh, because I restarted. Okay, yeah, should have just refreshed, but now it's building. But basically the player is in a certain row in a certain tile, like a column. But when we get basically the world position, so you can see relative x somehow already magically got set to 2020. And how is that? It's because when we create a world position from it, we... Oh, sorry. We'll look at it in a sec, but let me explain this first here. Now we got to build. So basically, you can see a player is here, right? So that means it's in column 8, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, roughly. So like this is a boundary, we don't count that, so I actually just count that. But this is 8 up to here. And then from bottom up, it's 2, right? So 0, 1, 2. That's where the player is. And so then we already see that we're actually putting him already, the tile size is 40, we're already putting him in the middle of the tile exactly, right? And then you're wondering how was that done? Well, let's look at it. So basically game model is taking the player in. When we build the model, we create the model, we already calculated the center here, see that? So we started the player out right in the center of the tile. We just did that basically just a second ago, right? So this already puts the player in the center of the game. All right. So now the problem is, so we got the game models correct, right? You got the player here, but then we run into a problem on line 25, custom paint, where we're missing a game model. That's what the problem is. What I don't understand. Hold on a second. So yeah, we're creating Canvas Painter here. We're not putting in thing, and it says it's required, but it's only a warning. Okay, so we forgot to put our game model into here. Okay, so now let's see. So we got the player here now. Okay, the question is if that makes any sense. So what we can easily do, we just play around with the level, and to figure out if the player is rendered in the right position. So let's just play the player at the very bottom, so almost, like, because we still have the wall. So now the player is over here, right? So what we probably should do is, in order to get better orientated, we should probably, for now, paint at least like a border around our canvas to see what's going on, right? So let's look at, because I already have something for that as well. have a draw grid function. So I think we're going to steal that, and we're going to make the draw grid exactly the size of the tiles. So for now, we will be able to see the tiles, right? So what I'll do that here, draw grid, and so the delta will basically be the props of tile size. Okay. And we need grid paint, which we could easily find. I'll just pull it from here, and we'll talk through it. But basically, the grid paint is just another grain paint. Okay. And it's basically we're doing just making it black. We're making it really thin, so it doesn't clutter up things too much. So basically, we first put the canvas to the lower left, and then we draw the grid, and we get the canvas and the size. All right, and so it is complaining because it should have been draw grid. Okay, and now if we refresh, nothing happened. Okay, that's not too cool. Do this again. Okay, now it happened. Okay, so that's kind of cool. So now we have at least an orientation point of where our things happen. And let's just walk through the grid real quick. It's nothing special. So basically, all we're doing is we're going basically. We're basically making sure we're increasing the columns, right? And we don't go past the actual size of the canvas, right? And so, and then we basically add the delta that we want, like the width. So basically, like we're starting over here, we draw a line, right? So it's like draw a line, we draw exactly at these, at this spot, right? So you're saying like the column and 0, which means x and 0y, which in our case is now here. And then we say column and the size of height, size height. So we go up to here. So this is the line we're drawing, right? This one here. And then we jump to the delta, which is over here, and we do the same thing. So then we draw from here to here, here to here. And the same works with the rows, right? And so now we have a better orientation. So now if you go back to here and we look at our actual game, we can see that, okay, so there's a wall here, which we don't draw yet. And then there's a wall here and a wall here, right? And then exactly here is where the player is supposed to be. So we are correctly drawing the player, right? So, and I think that would be a good place for now to take a break. The next thing we're going to do is we're not even going to draw any walls yet or anything like that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to figure out how can we draw an image there. Like we're going to implement basically a sprite, which should be interesting. And again, the main reason why I'm doing this, even though it's already part of Flame, and we actually will be looking at Flame for this extensively, we'll probably use some of the code there because loading images and so on is kind of, again, tricky boilerplate code that I don't necessarily want to do by myself or by hand. But again, I don't want to use the entire framework just to get things like that. So we will be pulling out some code from there. But taking a short break, we'll be back at the top of the hour, and I hope to have you back. Oh, well, actually, you know what? Before, we'll just do the little housekeeping. We'll check everything in. So everything we did, so we can just do that. Let's just say render drawing player as circle for now, right? Again, I'm going to the link I posted before, but I'm going to do it again. So this is the link. So if you want to follow along, if you want to kind of look at what we did so far, this is the link here. And again, I'm going to take a short break. I see I had some people got interested, some people stuck around, so that's great. Make sure to come back in about 5 minutes. And I'm going to interrupt the stream just already split it up into separate videos that I'll post on YouTube.